Okay, we are going to dive right into this. That I have Keita Roberts here with me from Pasta Sushi, Girl Carnivore, and also Foodie Pop-Ups. How are you, Keita?
I'm awesome today. I'm super stoked to be on this podcast. A little bit nervous because I've subscribed and I've seen, who you've had on, and I'm like, oh goodness.
No, stop it. Oh my goodness. Well, and Keita was the one that actually taught me a little bit about podcasting. She asked me about Stitcher. And when you sent me that message, I'm like, what is she talking about?
I am, yeah. I'm not a iPhone user, and sadly, it's really hard to get podcasts if you're not an iPhone user. And so, Stitcher. So for anybody who knows somebody on an Android that is suffering from not being able to listen to this podcast, you can now totally tell them to download Stitcher and this podcast.
I love it. Thank you so much. Yes, when you told me about it, I'm like, oh, we probably should figure that out. That would make things much easier for everyone. I love it. All right. So, Keita, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done previously. Just give us the whole background.
Yeah. I am 30. I just turned 30 this year. I just dated myself. Wow.
No, you didn't. You're talking to someone much older than you. Stop it.
I know, but I totally admit it. It's just wow. I have always been into photography. When I was a little tiny kid, I used to flip through National Geographic magazines and dream about being a National Geographic photographer. And then you put that idea away and you go and you get a job and you grow up and you put your big boy pants on and, or in this case, lady pants, boss suit. And I got into some career choices. I managed a comic book store for 10 years, which was the most fun you can ever imagine. I've been really, really lucky to I had, a few of those awful jobs that we all have when we are young and we first start out. And then I kind of just made up my mind that I would never have crappy jobs. And I've always been able to find a way to do what I love. And so I launched Pasta Sushi in 2009, 2010-ish. Back before blogs had business plans. And Had I known what it was, I probably would never have done it because it is a job. And then 3 years later, Girl Carnivore came around. It was the best marketing decision I ever made, really niching down into a sub-brand that I was super, super passionate about. Has been one of the coolest, most exciting websites I've ever done. And because of it, I've been able to branch off into a whole other line of meat-based blogging, which is really cool because there's not a lot of meat-based female bloggers out there. So it was really fun. But through it, I picked up my camera again and I just fell back in love with photography. And even now that it's 2017 when we're recording this, I no longer associate as a food blogger. I went 100% freelance last year completely. I had to step away from my job because I had so much work. And it was one of those things where it was I have a job I love. I can't possibly give it up. I love going to work. I work with children and I work with Batman and I know Darth Vader and my nephew thinks that's the coolest thing ever.
Right.
And I actually, things have happened in comic books because I was yo, we need to change some things. And so I was really making an impact. But it was one of those things where it was you can't continue to build somebody else's dream while you're chasing your own, or your dream will never get the momentum it needs. And so, people all over the world had been telling me, you've got to go all in, you've got to go all in, you've got to go all in. And finally, it just was I can't keep doing all of the things. My travel schedule was getting crazier and crazier. And even though I was still doing all of my work for the shop, I was never there. And when you're not there, it makes it so hard to talk to your boss and talk to your employees and, just the day-to-day communication that has to happen in a small family-owned business. Yes. There was only 4 employees. And so if one of the 4 is missing all of the time, it's a little bit stressful. Not that the I's weren't being dotted and the T's weren't being crossed. It just was where is she?
Right.
And so I went full-time last year, and it's funny because I come from a hardworking, blue-collar American family where you put your head down and you work. And yet I have this philosophy of like, I told the universe what I wanted and I became accepting of what the universe gave to me. And the moment I opened that door and I went all in, it has been exponential ever since. So it's crazy and I'm unwilling to give it up.
I love it. And I have to tell you, like, I'm choking up a little bit because it's very, like, you're describing the way that I feel about it. Like, very blue collar working family, and didn't totally understand what I was getting myself into, fell in love with this. And it's one of my very first podcast episode was about the power of purpose. And it is so, so true. Oh my goodness. Yes.
It's insane. And I am like, it's crazy to talk this way. Like, I'm like, I know it's woo woo and cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And everybody who knows me knows that I'm like as raw as it gets. That's not how I talk. And yet I am like, I am accepting whatever the universe is throwing at me. And I'm just kind of be like, I approach every day with like this gratitude, this like, just, I try to find moments of gratitude in every single thing. I was at a grocery store yesterday and I was checking out and the girl was telling me, she's like, oh, I just got done traveling. And she said, I did 11 countries in like 11 months for a mission. And I said, oh, that's amazing. I've done, 17 in the past 2 years. And she goes, which one was your favorite? And I said, all of them. And she was like, but like, which one? And I was like, no, they've all been amazing. Like every single place I've ever been has been amazing. You've got to find those moments of gratitude in every situation. So yeah, it's crazy. I am that cuckoo for Cocoa Puff. Like if anybody needs that inspiration talk, call me because I can do it all day.
So I have to ask then, have you read Gabby Bernstein's book, The Universe? I want to say, I can't think of the name of it, but it's Gabby Bernstein. She talks exactly about what you're talking about, all about the universe and how once you open yourself up to the universe, good things happen to those that do so. It's
Gabby Bernstein.
Gabby Bernstein, yes, that's her name. I had the book is probably over on my bookshelf somewhere over there, and I'm not seeing it right now.
I've definitely done Big Magic, and Big Magic was fantastic, crazy. It's totally crazy book, but everybody should go read it because it all talks about like, ideas coming to you and you needing to be like accepting of the idea, or the idea is going to totally like bounce away to somebody else because it's only got so much time. It's like totally cuckoo for crazy. Like I'm going to cuss. I'm going to end up cussing because it's totally crazy. But it's a great book. So that one's, but I'll totally have to look up Gabby. I'm writing it down. Gabby Bernstein. We'll have to, yes.
I love a ton of different stuff out, but her most recent one, I heard on an Amy Porterfield podcast. And of course, yes, had to go and buy the book and listen to all of it. And it's that whole mindset because we live and we work and it's just a different world of what we live in as entrepreneurs. I think it really, really is. So it's that whole mindset of being able to accept what's going to be given to you and run with it.
Amen. And I hate to give podcast shout outs on your podcast, but if you're not listening to Jess Lively, you need to.
Yes. She was on the Femme Show with Mariah Kaz, and I fell in love with her too. Yes.
Oh, I've been listening to Jess for 3 years. And if you haven't listened to her, 3 years ago, she did the amazing one-on-one interviews, just like, to one-to-one business owners, entrepreneurs, awesome interviews, super inspirational. And then in the last year, she's had a transition in life. And this is like, and I already liked her. Mm-hmm. And then like in this last year, I was like, oh, this is creepy. I'm recently separated. She's recently separated. She travels full time now. I travel. And I was like, this is so weird. Oh. She's just super successful and has this amazing podcast. And I'm totally couch surfing.
I love it. So now tell me, since we've kind of touched on the whole entrepreneur mindset already, what do you think is the toughest part about being an entrepreneur?
I think being an entrepreneur and being a female entrepreneur in a creative-based industry is completely like, it's a stigmata, it's a dogma, like how dare you? It's really hard to show the ROI on what we do and to quantify how we're providing. And yet I know that my income is very reasonable and but it comes in these drips and drabs in this freelance lifestyle. So it doesn't come every 2 weeks. It doesn't come on the 15th and 30th of every month. So I think, when you're explaining this to your loved ones and they're looking at you like, girl, you're about to do what? You're supposed to be in the kitchen and you're supposed to like get a little office job. And then here I am like, so dad, I'm going to go to Cambodia with my camera with a bunch of people I've never met before. And I'll be back in a few weeks. And he just like looks at you like, what? And so I think besides all of the the problems with being females and that we don't give ourselves enough credit, and we have, issues with validation, and we don't ever consider ourselves good enough, and that's just society, and we need to like totally rip that apart. Imposter syndrome 101. I think, the hustle can be exhausting, and I think finding a happy balance in trying to prove yourself and who you are, and kind of just finding the confidence in knowing that you don't have to explain it to everybody, because not everybody's going to get it. I think that's sadly the hardest part. I do think what I just said there, that finding balance is also very hard. Being creative entrepreneurs, we can chase that carrot. We can chase that carrot till 2 a.m., till 4 a.m. We can miss play dates, and we can miss cuddle time, and we can miss the voice, because there is always another email, and there's always another thing to do. So I have so many systems in place to take me offline so that I am more effective when I spend my hours online.
Yes. I've been reading a ton about productivity for that very reason, and trying to figure out what will work best, because it does. It feels like my mind is like a ping pong ball from one project to the next. And I'm like, wait a second, you're doing, and my husband will say, well, what are you launching now? What are you working on? He can't keep up with it all. But it's just the way that our minds work. Like we get so, we get so excited. Like I do. I get so excited to get out of bed in the morning. It's crazy.
I was up this morning because I'm totally crashing at a friend's house, and it's amazing. And she's got this killer view. And so like, I'm a light addict. Somebody recently dubbed me, because I'm girl carnivore and I'm a photographer. They recently dubbed me the light butcher, and I'm like, I am so owning that. But I was up before sunrise just so I could put my phone out to do a hyperlapse of sunrise, because I was like, it's gorgeous. And so like, here I am, like, one more thing I want to do. And that's just for like an Instagram behind the scenes story. But I sincerely just wanted to be like, look how beautiful this is. But yeah, our minds are insane. And, it can be super detrimental to your relationships if you don't like slow that down. I couldn't figure out, I'm a mountain bike racer in my copious amounts of free time. I couldn't figure out why my friends, the people that got me into mountain bike racing, were always riding their bikes. They could ride their bikes whenever they wanted. And I was like, how can they ride their bikes so much? Well, these are all successful, really hardworking people. I mean, they put as much effort into riding their bikes as they do their careers. But I realized that when they clocked out at night, they clocked out at night.
Right.
Which meant they didn't have the stress of the email or the phone or that Instagram, or did you reply to that comment, or, oh my God, my website got hacked. What do? They clocked out.
Right. And
they would go back in at 9. And that's totally when I I was like, and you're setting hours, boop. And so my phone goes to silent, my computer goes off, Facebook gets blocked, like, boop, because it was just like that mental struggle of finding time for myself, my relationships, and the things that really mattered, that made me a whole person. So yeah, productivity 101. It's so hard. It's so hard.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. I was listening to Pat Finn's podcast this morning about productivity. They're talking about theme days is what they were really getting into. And I have been struggling with that and trying to figure out so they theme their day so that if like Monday is about marketing and Tuesday is about just writing the content, and then let's say Wednesday, they are going through and doing all their podcast interviews, whatever it might be. Before we got on, that's what I was looking at. I was like, how can I figure this out with 2 kids and a husband that works crazy hours, of being able to theme a day and still get work done?
It actually works. I used to do that when I still went into the comic shop. So like, especially with food blogging, you can cook one day and you can take pictures that night or the next morning, and then you can spend the day after, 2 days after, doing the recipe, typing it up. And it actually does, it's that routine.
Yes.
Setting that routine so that we're familiar with, we wake up and we know what our job is today. And our job today is marketing or podcast or editing or pinning.
Right. Hey, that works too. Yes, it just makes the context switching, I think, a lot less too, for sure. So now, how did you go from being a food blogger to going and doing more of the travel? Because I know in my audience, there's a lot of food bloggers that are interested in this side of things, because obviously we love food. And in order to really experience all the food that's out there, we want to travel to do it. So how did you make the leap?
So food bloggers that want to go into traveling, this is the way I start all of my talks when I do this. 101, I just need to say, I'm not married. Clearly, I'm recently separated, and I don't have children. And so I think that for everything we want, we need to put it in, perspective of what we can form our lives around. I I joke that I drank the travel Kool-Aid and I knew I wanted it. And so I started traveling, and I love those experiences on the streets where you're eating something and you're having that moment with that person, because it is about the food. And I do believe that life exists around the dinner table. So I did start writing a little bit on Past the Sushi, because Girl Carnivore is so niched. I don't expand that website, but on Past the Sushi, I started thinking how can I curate my travels, where I've been, and tell stories about them that fits for this audience. And so I started doing these really quick foodie roundups. So if I went to Portland, Maine, what were the 6 places I tried in 36 hours? Or Nashville, your foodie dives and whatnot. And so I started doing these really quick posts that people could read with a lot of food, but still also offer that guide sort of feel on my website. And then I was able to start pitching to some other outlets. I think that part of blogging, part of the transformation of bloggers, which I think bloggers need to adapt and adapt quickly if they want to continue to diversify themselves in this market, is that you've got to continue to get bylines and other resources. It's no longer just about how successful your blog is. It's building that blog audience across multiple platforms. And so I started reaching out and pitching to some other articles online. And I do write for the Matador Travel Network and things like that. And so it was really just being hey, how can I do this? All right, let me look at some other people that are doing it. Where are they pitching? What's attainable for myself? Because I don't have those big bylines. Who can I get in with and try to leverage this? And since then, I've been able to really, really build more on that. But I think that because we all do have the families and the food experiences, we can kind of already start this travel section with experiences we've already had. And they're authentic and they're real, because you also need to figure out what your blog audience is. So how are you going to talk to them about travel, but also about whatever your niche is? So if your family blog, is it traveling with your family? Is it cheap, affordable micro adventures with your family? Is it flying around the world with your family? If you're a solo young lady like myself, is it how to shove as much food in your face in 24 hours as you possibly can while you're in Austin? There's that. I totally have this other idea, but we'll keep that one for later about another hilarious website. Because, this is once again ping pong ball.
Right, exactly. That's the best way to work. So definitely, you're suggesting to get some sort of content established so that you can show that you're already getting some experience. So it doesn't have to be paid. And kind of like a series almost is a great way. I love the way that you said that you did that. So it was like a foodie find. So it kind of had its own place, because I think as we grow as writers, we end up finding that we want to incorporate other parts of our life into our sites. So in order to do that, it's hard to figure out, okay, I don't want to alienate my audience, but I do want to fit this in. I love the way that you did that.
So what I love about blogs is we're blogs, right? And I know that everybody that listens to this isn't a blogger, but I think, there's a lot of people that are.
Yes.
And what I love about blogging is, recently I saw a thread that people were complaining that food bloggers didn't just have the recipe. Okay, well, whomever those people are, they can go play in their own sandbox, because this is my website. And if I want to write 4,000 words about something random before my recipe, I'm allowed. And I've been doing this for 8 years now. I'm allowed to write whatever the hell I want in my sandbox. And you can scroll for 30 seconds to get that recipe that I spent 5 hours developing and photographing and editing and putting on my website for free for you. But like you said, we have to know what our audience loves to listen to, and so you do need to incorporate your story, whether it's tips or adventures or things like that. If it's posh luxury style, if it's camping, pitch in a tent, you've got to do it in a way that suits your audience. You've always got to serve your audience, because at the end of the day, there's what paying the bills. Those that consistently come back, not those one and done people that come over from Pinterest and complain
and want a recipe. Yes,
right, because they had to scroll. Well, calm down. I'm not the Pillsbury Doughboy. I don't know if that's trademark infringement. Sorry, Pillsbury Doughboy. But, you've got to you have to figure out how even though you want it. I've seen a lot of food bloggers, or I shouldn't say food bloggers. I've seen a lot of bloggers do this where they kind of get this idea and they add it to their website, but you can tell they haven't thought about how this serves their website. Like they're just kind of grabbing. So I think it's really important to focus down on what serves your community before you add a random article that doesn't really make sense. And that's another thing, like you said, that consistency. I love Emily and Kathleen from Being Boss, and consistency breeds legitimacy is one of my favorite lines. So, and I'm totally guilty of this. I said every other Wednesday was going to be a travel Wednesday on my site, and I just got busy with other work. But I just wanted my audience to know that, like, this is happening. This is happening. This is happening. And I think then sharing this, kind of integrating it into your other platforms, like kind of getting your reader ready for this. So I have a pattern on my Instagram, and I'm super particular about the pattern on my Instagram so that if you come to my Instagram, you see the mix that I want you to see. Same thing on Facebook. I share X post to X post, food to travel, because I want that reader to always know that I'm thinking about these things. So it's integrating it in a way that serves them, but also showing it to them in that consistent way so that they're associating that with you. And that could be for anything. If you're a mom blogger who knits quilts, but also wants to talk about calligraphy all of a sudden, start bringing that in little by little in a way that serves that quilting audience you've already built. Because they're probably crafty, way craftier than me. They can handle it.
I love the way that we've kind of gone through this process of talking about it rather than talking about it towards the brand standpoint, but talking about it, thinking about our audience first. Because I think oftentimes as business owners, we're thinking, okay, we want to monetize. How can we monetize? How can we work with a brand? How can we get them behind us? And then what ends up happening is we totally forget about our audience. And they're the ones that are getting us to be, they're giving us the views, they're giving us the feedback, the engagement that we need in order to be able to do these things. So we cannot forget about them.
No, people trump everything. I mean, at the end of the day, would you be writing your blog if you never had that General Mills sponsorship? Well, hell yeah, you would. That's why you started. And I guess maybe people do now because blogging is a business plan thing now. But, when I started, it wasn't about ambassadors and brands and whatnot. It was always about being able to write for people that wanted to read what I wrote. And so I always try to put them first. Have I taken sponsorships that maybe I'm not 110% thrilled with? Yeah, I got to pay some bills, but I always try to work it in, reasonably. And I've had those uncomfortable conversations with brands where it's like, I didn't agree to write your text and I won't change my voice.
Right. You need to be authentic.
Always. And so, yeah, and I think there, like, you've already got that built-in audience, which is at the end of the day, what travel companies in particular want. So travel brands want an audience. The thing about travel is they're not going to send you unless they know you're reaching people, period. It's not like somebody can go to the supermarket or to the mall and buy X brand, if they're shopping. They can't go hunt it out. They've got to come to them.
Right.
So to be sent, they need to know that you are going to get the exposure for them and the exposure that they need in that market. So you can't do this just with no audience, no metrics, no numbers. I don't think that numbers are the most important thing in the world. I think engagement definitely trumps that, but you've got to have a baseline somewhere.
Yes, and know who your audience is.
Exactly, and what a better way to do that than develop content. I mean, you probably have taken a family vacation in the last year. And it does not have to be glamorous. Like my father used to drive us an hour to the beach and we'd park our asses until we got sunburned. I'm sorry, I totally just cussed.
You're fine.
But we park ourselves until we got like blistering sunburn, and then we drove home.
Right.
And you know what I realized? Like a friend of mine doesn't know how to take his kids to the beach. That's a great article, and I hate to say it. It sounds so stupid and silly. It's so basic. You put kids in car, you drive, you buy those cheap plastic toys, you sit in sand. Till inevitably somebody explodes. You put toys in car, you drive home. But like that, like how to take a family to a beach for a day on the cheap. Like we went to the free beach, we did the free shower. Like those are things that people need to know. And what we consider like, we did that all the time. You know, some people don't know that. They don't know where they can buy park passes or what they can get into or how you could possibly get 4 kids in an airplane and not lose your mind. Like, oh my God.
Yes.
So they need these tips.
Right. And that's a great way to look at it too. And because I think us always just saying, oh, I went to this wonderful, full 4-star resort and this is all the assets that it had. But what value is that providing as far as like a family? Like, what's the story behind it? Is it a great family vacation? Then tell me the tips to be able to make it happen and why I should choose that one over the one that's right down the street and same exact price. So
Exactly. And I think so now you've got your passionate audience, you've given them content they want, you've continued to build your brand. Now you're ready to probably at that point then go out and pitch to some people or try to get some bylines on other, places. And just like food blogs, and I'm sorry to keep referencing them, but it's my background. Travel blogs are a dime a dozen. So once you're ready to start getting those extra bylines, like start pitching and do not be above it. Like don't be above contributing to some sites that, are maybe for mom family travels or solo female traveling or mountaineering women traveling. Like pitch to those audiences because I don't care if it's not the New York Times. It's an audience and it's a passionate audience in that niche that you've grown. Inevitably, they're going to click through back to your website and start following you. So you're just building more, like you're totally just putting more into the pot.
Right.
So it's a great way to do it.
So let's talk about one of the things that I always talk about in working with brands in my e-course is that you have to have some sort of asset, like an out of the box kind of like what sets you apart from everyone else. So when you're talking about yourself, what would you say? And I have something in my head that I immediately think of just because I've known you forever, I feel like. But what would you say sets you apart?
I like to think that that's because I'm really fun. And I'm a pretty cheap date. So for me, I am female and it's funny. I was on the top of a mountain in Canada a few weeks ago. And I mean, okay, I'm going to totally please don't hate me, Canadians. I'm really sorry, but I'm going to totally admit this. I had never been to Canada. And then kind of my map of Canada was everything along the border. Right. And then it kind of just became the great white mess above that. Everything was a frozen tundra. And then I looked at a map because I was going to Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. And I didn't know where that was.
No clue.
Y'all can tweet me if you know where that is without Googling it. And it's I thought, and when I look at a map, I was like, oh my God, I'm hanging out with Santa Claus. Okay, it's kind of halfway up Quebec. But that's still pretty far north.
Right.
And I'm standing at the top of a mountain and I'm not even kidding. I ended up with frostbite. It's -40. I just climbed for 2 hours with my camera gear, and it's 60 pounds of camera gear. And I looked around, and I'm like, oh, I'm totally I'm doing epic landscape photography. Oh, we need more chicks in this business. So I think it's I love sports. I like epic stuff. I almost cussed again. I like epic stuff, and I'm sending a chick that's willing to carry a 60-pound bag of camera gear up a mountain. I think I try to fit a niche that most chicks aren't. Well, not most. A lot of chicks are out there that are pretty awesome. We just need more of them writing for really cool travel networks.
Yes.
So I'd like to think that, and I'd like to think that the photography is pretty good.
That is what I immediately think of when I think of you. Your photography is more than pretty good. It's absolutely gorgeous. So stop. Yes. No.
Okay, stop. The phone was ringing for a second.
You're
but it
fine.
Stopped.
It's okay. No. You're fine. All right. So let's talk about when you pitch for travel. Who are you pitching? Are you pitching airlines? Do you pitch for accommodations? What are you pitching for?
So I think the easiest way to break in to, especially if you're starting from ground one, is definitely accommodations, hotels. So reaching out to hotels, and this is the same, it's a really same thing. It's about the person. You want to try to get in touch with the hotel. You don't want to go to the website and dial that 1-800 number or whatnot. I think it's really important to find the hotel, find the manager of that hotel, and talk to them. Send them a personal email or give them a phone call. Tell them who you are and what you're doing, and that you're bringing your family or your dog or yourself or 4 of your best girlfriends in town for a weekend, and you would love to stay at their hotel or resort in exchange for X amount of coverage. That's a great way to break in, and it's a pretty easy way to break in because hotels are really cool with accepting we'll give you either a free stay, or a lot of hotels have media discount. So now you're staying a lot cheaper than you would have stayed. So say your family is planning a vacation next year and you want to break into travel, but you're not really sure how, and you're trying to build this thing, call the hotel you were going to book anyway and ask them. And then if they can't do like completely comped, see if they'll do a media rate for you. So now you're going to take that family vacation anyway, but it's not nearly as expensive, and you can reward yourself by making some beautiful blog content too.
Right.
So I think hotels are definitely the easiest way to get started. It's just, that, and there's a lot of hotels. So pitch to all of them. Like, find all of them in the area you're going and find out who the people are and give them a phone call. If you have any business travel for like conferences, anything like that, same thing. Like, find out who's in the area. Talk to them. You're coming anyway. This is exposure for them. Then I think, then you can contact the local CVBs or businesses in that area. So, if you are a meat blogger who specializes in steak, you can contact the local steakhouses and things like that. Or in Austin last year, I had like 4 days of like so much brisket. It was unreal. But I just went from like barbecue joint to barbecue joint, and I'm girl carnivore. And so it was kind of just like, and people love that you're into what they're into. And so they want that exposure. Like, if your family's into kayaking, I guarantee you that if you showed up with like 3 little kids that are totally into kayaking and you found the right business owner, they're going to be super pumped that your family is excited and you want to share your experience, and that's helping them grow too. Right. It's, once again, it's about that relationship too. If you can become that person, they love it. Another thing is like, never be that blogger. Never be that blogger. Like, don't do it. Like, just don't be that blogger. Because you're on a list, and just like any other industry, this industry is huge, but it's small. And we all see each other at the conferences, and all the PR reps talk to each other just like any other industry. So if you promise something, show up. I don't care if you want to sleep in. I don't care if you stayed out all night partying. That's your own fault. Put your boss pants on, because either you show up or you stop playing this game. I hate when people don't do what they're supposed to do. And I've had an amazing relationship form, back before I was doing this all the time. I had a hotel company. It was a press release, a very generic press release in my region, new hotel opening. I replied. I was like, hey, can I come check it out? And they were like, sure. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And this is before, like I said, this is years ago. It's before things like this happened. And I had an amazing experience. The maitre d' at the hotel was an intern. He knew I was coming, and that he knew I was there to review this particular restaurant that had been opening. And so they gave me a free weekend there. It was beautiful. It was a resort, and I was there to review their brand new restaurant. Well, this intern took the time to go to my website and read my bio. He had no cilantro, because it says, I hate cilantro. Like, and it's like this snarky little line, like halfway through my bio. It's just like, and I hate cilantro. And it also says somewhere in there that I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. They don't serve mint chocolate chip ice cream at this restaurant. This young man, this intern, had mint chocolate chip ice cream in the freezer for me. So I called the hotel and I said, that intern, like, I made it a point to not only write about my experience, share that experience, but go all the way back and let that hotel know that that young man went so far above and beyond. Like, that is customer service you don't get anywhere.
Right.
That's crazy good. And the fact that he was that like thoughtful and, went out of, like, nobody told him to do that. But that company that sent me that random press release years and years ago, they know I do commercial photography and they know I do travel. And so, 2 years ago, I was at another event. That PR person happened to be there, and she was like, oh my gosh, we've never met face to face. You wrote a beautiful report or a post 4 years ago. I'm happy to finally meet you. Great to see you in person. We've been doing business ever since. I mean, I just got off the phone with her 2 days ago about an event I'm hosting in 3 months at a resort that they manage. And so it's just like, always follow through and always keep that relationship good, because the way you treat people matters. And even if it's a free hotel review 4 years ago, if you were polite, kind, and courteous and you did what you were supposed to do, they're going to remember that. Right. And they're going to think of you. And so it really matters. Build those relationships.
Right. And I love the fact, too, that it was an email that was just a random press release, because I think a lot of times people find it so intimidating to reach out and try to find an email or to try to find a phone number, or we get so many emails in our inboxes that we often will just ignore them and not just delete them before we even get halfway through it to see what it's about. So replying to something like that, to know that it actually can go somewhere and could be a first step, is really simple, actually, to take that first step that way.
It's super simple. And I know that those press releases can be annoying because I like swim. I like joke. I'm like, this year I'm hiring somebody to handle my email for me. Like, I've got the VA for social. I am totally investing in somebody just to send me like the crap I need. But I try to really actually consciously remember that somebody typed that email. It might be the most vanilla, boring email in the whole wide world, and it might be for moms and diapers, and I might have to remind them that I am not a mom and I know diddly about diapers. But I always try to reply with something thoughtful, because there's a person there, and that's their relationship, and you never know where they're going to be in 6 months, and you never know who they're going to know, and you never know when they're going to think of you. And so I've even gone as far as like, hey, you know what? You email me like 1,000 times. I can't partner with you. I don't represent this brand, but I know somebody who's awesome and would be an amazing fit for you. I think you should reach out to them, and I'll go and I'll forward that information to them, to the other person that I think is a perfect fit. That is huge. That's huge. It's no longer about the money that you're trying to make. It's not about that deal that you're trying to sign. Like, I'm giving you value.
Right.
This is, all comes back to that. Give the audience value, give the person value, give everything you can.
Absolutely. No, I love that. So one of the questions that I always ask everyone that comes on the podcast is what your projections are for 2017.
Projections for 2017. Oh, this is where I get all crazy. Okay. So if you are not investing in yourself, if you are not investing in your email newsletter, I'm going to come around and smack you. Invest in yourself. Invest in video and invest in yourself. Get live and get comfortable with it. You're going to do stupid shit. Your face is going to be ugly at times. Life's going to go on. Move on. Build a bridge. Get over that crap. But bring it back. Bring it back to strong content. Bring it back to the way it used to be. Because we're seeing now that PR brands and whatnot are kind of starting to realize, like, it's not about the numbers. Like, yeah, they still want to see them, but it's not about the numbers. But if you're producing solid content and you're getting people to subscribe to your email list and you're giving them what they want all of the time, that's the people that are going to continue to pay your bills. When Facebook is gone, when Instagram changes, when Pinterest is like 99.9% sponsored posts and something new has been created and we're all trying to figure that out, you'll still own your mailing list.
Yes.
And you'll still be giving them good content.
Absolutely.
So totally, I think that email lists, I think that's like, if you are not investing in a really good email service in 2017, you're really shortchanging yourself, because social media is going to continue to evolve and it's going to continue to spiral. And we can spend all day, every day trying to master that, or we can find our strengths and weaknesses and develop really good content for the people that want your content anyway. So I would say investing in email lists. And I think you're going to see readers coming back to wanting the experience of being with you. And it's kind of going to weed out the people that click from Pinterest, because the user experience isn't what it used to be. And so, you're not going to get that spike as often from those social media jumps. So ignore it. That's bonus. That's like icing on the cake.
Right.
The cake's already delicious.
Right. Be able to convert those people that are coming over to subscribers and be able to then target and segment and figure out how to put people on your list so that you know what they're interested in. Yes, we did a podcast interview. Podcast 4 was with Cynthia Rezenkovich, who talked about ConvertKit and going through and tagging and the importance of being able to tell the difference between who is interested in what. So absolutely.
Yeah. I definitely think that. And it's really scary, when you're getting these notifications that Google's going to penalize people for pop-ups and whatnot. But whatever you can do to get people to your email list, I think we're going to see a huge trend of proprietary email lists coming back to people. And then even through that, there's marketers now that are trying to advertise in your email list and things like that. So, whatever works for you. This is a judgment-free zone. We all have our heads down and are hustling. But I think super good content delivered via email is like so important. And I am totally guilty of, I haven't written an email in like 4 weeks. So I've got like a big one coming, but
it's going to be massive.
It's, yeah, sadly.
That's too funny. All right. So Keita, tell everybody where they can find you. What's the best like social media platform to follow you on? Where can they find you?
So if you want travel and adventures, follow me at Pasta Sushi and on my Instagram account for Pasta Sushi, Twitter for drunk tweets all the time. And sometimes like inspirational quotes and stuff, but mainly like if it's nighttime and I'm tweeting, I've probably had a shot or two of tequila. Can get interesting. And you can find some of my travel adventures and my links to some of my other travel writing there. You can find me at Girl Carnivore if you're into cheeseburgers and barbecue, which is awesome. I've got Burger Month coming up in May, which I invite any blogger of any genre who just happens to enjoy burgers, and it doesn't have to be animal-based protein, to join me for Burger Month, because it's really just about a celebration of burgers. So find me that way. And then if you're interested in bettering your photography, you can check out Foodie Pop-Ups, in which I am working on a Boone, North Carolina pop-up right now, and it's going to be sometime like late.
What?
Late,
wait a second.
Yeah.
You're coming to North Carolina? You do realize that I like live 45 minutes from Boone, right?
I didn't know you lived 45 minutes from Boone, but yes, I'm going to be doing a Boone, North Carolina pop-up in late July, early August.
Oh my goodness, you have to let me know the dates, because there are so many Charlotte. That's not because we're right Charlotte, North Carolina. We're right here. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's fun. And like, yeah, so if you need headshots or anything like that, I'm always traveling. And so I try to put it out there as often as I can. And I am reworking my personal website so that it has more live travel dates. But I've been booking people as I travel, which is a fantastic way to book headshots. You know, you're getting people in their kitchens, in their real life, in their hometowns. And so it's a lot of fun. And it's kind of been my dream to travel with a camper and go from town to town photographing people in their local environments. And I can totally admit that I've been pricing out some campers. So that might be my new life right now. It's going to be exciting.
So fun. Oh my goodness.
It's going to be, yeah.
Keita, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I literally probably could talk to you all day long. Like you're one of the easiest people to talk to. And I found that from the very first time that I met you. So thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. And then I will have something up on the site when this goes live for all of my followers on Pasta Sushi, and I'm sure we'll link to that in the show notes. And it'll be like a downloadable PDF with some travel notes for you guys getting started. So I look forward to hearing from you. Tweet me any questions you have.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for listening in, and we'll talk soon.